race or questioning Tim Walz's military background when you're trying to attract independents and moderates?
So there's two different issues. And let me sort of say what I think would be the wise side of each and what's not the wise side of each. Going after Kamala Harris for being a flip-flopper or telling audiences what they want to hear, I think is a good line of attack because we don't know what her policies are. So she said a few years ago she's against fracking. Now she says she's not against fracking. A few years ago she said she wanted to have a single-payer healthcare system and a nationalized U.S. healthcare system and abolish private health insurance. She raised her hand when they said, do you favor abolishing private health insurance on the debate stage? She raised her hand. Now,
and we back with another one. Vivek Ramaswamy returns back to 105.1. Check it out. He's on the Breakfast Club, and we already know this is Team Kamala. And there's no problem with that. By all means, hey, listen, root for who you're going to root for. You understand? With that being said, sit back and react with your boy. We already know Vivek is about to put everyone in their place. So let's see how this is about to play out. Let's go.
Side of each and what's not the wise side of each. Going after Kamala Harris for being a flip-flopper or telling audiences what they want to hear, I think is a good line of attack because we don't know what her policies are. So she said a few years ago she's against fracking. Now she says she's not against fracking.
There's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking. So, yes, and starting with what we can do on day one around public lands, right? And then there has to be legislation. But yes, and this is something I've taken on in California. I have a history of working on this issue. And to your point, we have to just acknowledge that the residual impact of fracking is enormous in terms of the impact on the health and safety of communities. Yeah, so thank you.
So would you ban offshore drilling?
Yes, and I've, again, worked on that.
A few years ago, she said she wanted to have a single-payer healthcare system and a nationalized U.S. healthcare system and abolish private health insurance. She raised her hand when they said, do you favor abolishing private health insurance on the debate stage? She raised her hand. Now her advisors are saying, she won't say, but her advisors are saying she no longer believes that. So I think it's an interesting line of attack to say, are you just going to tell people what they want to hear, or are you going to tell your people what you actually believe about?
Answer questions.
And I think that's how we all feel at this point. I feel like at this point, she is just saying what people want to hear. At least the people who she decides who she feels what they want to hear. You understand what I mean? So, I mean, a person like that can't really lead a country, but we all really know who's really leading. You understand? They're just mere puppets. You understand?
Yourself and who you are. That, I think, is an interesting line of attack. And that could include some cultural elements. Going after her for what her racial identity is or isn't, I don't think that's a good line of attack. But the idea that, are you somebody who's going to tell people your actual beliefs, or are you just going to tell whichever audience is in front of you what they want to hear, that I think is valid. Tim Walz, going after him for any part of his military service to say that, oh, you didn't carry a big enough gun on the front line of fire and therefore you didn't serve the country, that's not a good line of attack. But I think an interesting and worthy line of attack is saying that, did you lie about it, right? There's no obligation in this country to serve in the military. It's honorable if you do. But if you're going to say that you served in a war that you weren't in, then that goes back to the question of honesty.
And we know a veteran is not going to like anything like that. One thing about veterans and one thing about the military and one thing about people in the service and those who are already done with the service, check this out. They're not going to appreciate anyone trying to fake a Medal of Honor. You understand? If you were not there, you can't front and act like you were. That's a big, big, big no-no right there. Because basically, you put those in shame who actually were the brave ones who went there and actually lost their life. You understand? That's like a slap in their face right there.
Doesn't that
So I would
deflect,
draw those distinctions.
Doesn't that deflect from what Tim Walz, the issue that he's actually brought up, which is there shouldn't be any military-style assault weapons on the streets in the hands of civilians? Because that's really what he was talking about. To me, when you start bringing up...
Well, I think there's a few different things going on in the Tim Walz situation. There is evidence in interviews and otherwise that he suggested he served in Afghanistan when he didn't, and that he actually did know before that he was going to be called to Iraq before he decided to actually go run for Congress. I'm not in the business of questioning his service at all, but when you're asking the question, and you haven't heard me talk about this general topic in the media at all myself, but if you're asking me, is it fair game for Republicans to go after him for lying to the public? Yes. Is it smart or a good idea to go after him for military service? No. But I think that for lying to the public, for somebody who's going to be vice president of the United States, that is, I think, a worthy line of attack.
But it's still deflecting from the issue of gun violence.
Well, my whole thing is, let's focus this on policy. Let's have a debate on the merits of policy and where you land. Now, Tim Walz, it's interesting. As a governor, You may or may not agree with the policies, but he is a governor who has increased the tax burden in Minnesota.
My main purpose of pausing it right here is because I'm not gonna lie, I get triggered when I always hear someone say gun violence. That never made sense to me. I've never heard of knife violence. I've never heard of chair violence. I mean, they like to use a lot of rhetoric sometimes, and what I come to the conclusion is this, right? Left, right, listen. They're just puppets, and the only reason why they are in place so we can't really see who runs the world. You understand what I mean? Man, listen, if we only had a clue who's really running the show, all of this will crumble right here and things just won't work right for them. You understand? So all of this is put in place so we can have division, we have religion, we have politics. I mean, the list goes on. You understand?
Favors higher capital gains taxes for people who live in Minnesota. It's one of the highest tax states in the country. It's not California or New York. It's a Midwestern state. Got by far the highest tax burden of anywhere in the Midwest. Mm-hmm. He is somebody who believes in a lot of the restrictions on fossil fuels. I don't know where you all are on that issue. I'm dead set against much of the climate change agenda because I think it leaves Americans of every political persuasion worse off. Tim Walz as a governor has been one of the most aggressive. Some people might like it. People like me don't, but he's been one of the most aggressive on implementing climate change policies, even at the state level. So those are legitimate lines of attack that I think we're not going hard enough on as Republicans because we're focused on other issues.
Go ahead.
Lauren.
I was going to say, well, back to Kamala, do you think that, because you said like you can't get to her hard policy, but everybody's having so much conversation about her race and what she said versus what she didn't say, and
I think this actually helps Kamala, to be clear.
No, it does help
even
her,
if
but
it was from a strategist perspective, from a Republican standpoint, she gives us a lot to focus on by way of policy criticism. We're actually missing that opportunity right now. So I'd like to see that change in the next 3 months, and I think the country would be better off for it. I also don't favor, I said this even when Joe Biden was running for president. So there's a pledge that the Republican Party required you to sign to be on the debate stage. Last year, so I did the Republican primary debate. It was called the Beat Biden Pledge. I said this is a nonsensical idea for 2 reasons. Okay, one is I don't think we're going to be running against Biden. Turns out that ends up being the case. Yep. But the second reason is we're not going to succeed for the country or at the ballot box by just railing against the radical Biden agenda. We have to stand for our own vision for the country. What do we actually stand for, not just what are we against? And so if we make that same mistake with respect to Kamala Harris, I don't think we're running against an individual candidate. I think we're running against a machine. And what I'd like to see as her vision is we want to go in and dismantle that machine.
I kind of see what he's saying too. This is definitely a machine. She has good marketing. She's being sheltered. You understand? They're making sure that now that we're catching on, when I say we, I do not mean Republicans. I mean we as the people, because no one should be pro-Democrat or pro-Republican. You should be pro-policy. You understand what I'm saying? But that being said, she got a heavy machine on her. The reason why I say that, they have all media bending on their knees right now. You understand? I mean, just look around. Everything is pro-Kamala, pro-Kamala. I've never seen anything like this before, you know? So I guess, you know, they pumping a lot of money. There's a lot of bread behind her out of left field. Remember, last year, everyone was saying, where's Kamala at? I don't see where she is. Everyone had jokes on her, and now all of a sudden, she's the savior. I'm telling you, the media is a mastermind. They can make you love someone at the same time hate them. I don't know how that works, but man, listen, they got some serious payola over there. They got some serious bread to be making all of this happen.
That's what Draining the Swamp was actually about. That's why you had that dragon energy in 2016. And I think there's nonpartisan, bipartisan interest in saying that, you know what, we do live in a country where a bureaucracy crushes the will of the citizens. Go in and break that system. That's a powerful and I think unifying message. I'm not a big fan of going after just one individual candidate because it misses the point of what we're up against.
Word.
For Kamala Harris's part, though, I think she owes the people of this country an answer. Where does she stand on nationalizing healthcare? Are you for it or are you against it? Where do you stand? This is a big one that people don't talk about. Affects small business owners, including black and white business owners across the country. She favors what's called a tax on unrealized capital gains. What that means is even if you have a business, you know, you're a businessman too, right? So you're operating a business, but take somebody who's maybe in a tougher position than you are. That means you have to pay taxes even when you don't have the cash to pay those taxes because the government says that it's worth something and you have to pay 25% of that value every year. Well, what if you don't have the cash in your pocket? That forces you to either sell your business, take out a loan to pay taxes. That's a formula for real economic calamity. She has consistently supported that. That's what we need to be talking about. Are you still in favor of it? If so, why? Let's have that policy debate. And I think that hiding from those issues is something that leaves the American people holding the bag.
As soon as they got into office, they tried to pass this law. I believe they did pass the law where the bank will start reporting any kind of funds you have over, I believe, what was it, $500 or something like that. And you know, basically now they're getting into your business. You understand what I mean? This is what they passed. And I believe they were hiring like a fleet of IRS workers so they could go dig deep and try to get all this money back they feel they deserve. You understand? So I don't understand how now she's flip-flopping saying no tax on tip workers, you know. So again, this is what I'm saying, that flip-flopping. I don't know what that's about right there. Maybe y'all can let me know in the comments.
To that, I'm sure when the debates come and everything else. And
we only have 3 months.
When she does interviews. I agree with that. I want to ask you a thing about the flip-flopping too. Isn't that what politicians do, though? And what I mean by that is J.D. Vance was calling Trump America's Hitler, right? But now when it comes to Trump, he's the Hawk Tuah girl. Like he's just, he's sucking him off every chance he gets. And that's what a lot of y'all do. Like just politicians in general. You hear so many different Republicans have said so many negative things about Donald Trump, but then as soon as he becomes the nominee, everybody just falls in line.
And normally they fall in line.
Not too long ago, this is the type of situation where all I see Charlemagne doing right now is justifying what Kamala is doing right now. Just listen to his remarks. Everything is trying to justify what she's doing. So basically, because all politicians do this, that's justifiable. It's okay for her to do it. No, it's certain levels of it. You understand what I mean? And what she's doing is just ridiculous right now. We're focusing on her, not all the other politicians. You get what I mean? Stop deflecting.
I want to ask you a thing about the flip-flopping too. Isn't that what politicians do, though? And what I mean by that is J.D. Vance was calling Trump America's Hitler, right? But now when it comes to Trump, he's the Hawk Tuah girl. Like he's just, he's sucking him off every chance he gets. And that's what a lot of y'all do. Like just politicians in general. You hear so many different Republicans have said so many negative things about Donald Trump, but then as soon as he becomes the nominee, everybody just falls in line.
And normally they fall in line in unison, and you can rage against the machine. It doesn't feel like Trump and Vance are like it's not there. Like
so what do you?
Wait. So did we all just forget that Kamala Harris debated Joe Biden at one point and she was going in on him? And I don't know if I'm reaching right now. Y'all let me know, correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't she trying to consider him being racist or something like that? You see what I'm saying right now? This is why you have to stay with the current events so that you can't let anybody trick you, sway you, or pull one over your head. Pause, no Diddy. Check this out.
You call that? Is that flip-flopping?
So here's what I will say is it fair game to press J.D. Vance hard on why he said certain things about Donald Trump before versus what his view is on Donald Trump today? Yes, I think that's fair game. Mm-hmm. And has he been pressed and has he answered for that? Yes, he has. What I would love to see is both candidates, and Kamala Harris hasn't done this yet, and I'd love to challenge her to do it because I think it's good for the voters of the country. She hasn't sat down for one media interview of a hard-pressing one-on-one variety yet. And she's actually the leading candidate now in many of the polls for U.S. president. So I just think we deserve a country where the people are willing to show up. She should show up here. She should show up on CNBC, where I was this morning, and actually engage in hard questions about what her beliefs are. You saw JD, say what you will, on 3 shows yesterday, pressed on exactly that very issue. And I think that's good for the American people to then be able to make their own judgment. It's not your judgment or the journalist's judgment, but it's what people at home are able to see to assess. Do I actually believe somebody who believes they changed their mind over the course of time? Kamala Harris might have changed her mind, and I think it's okay. Mm-hmm. Flip-flopping is one thing, changing your mind thoughtfully is another. But you deserve to be questioned on it, and it's up to the voters to decide whether or not they believe you. Right now, we're not getting that chance.
Not getting that chance to either want to believe her or we call her phony baloney. You understand what I mean? So she keep ducking and diving. That's not a good look right now. I mean, you need to stand on your own too, sweetheart. Listen, Miss Kamala, you definitely need to stand on your own too. Stop ducking the interviews. Show and prove. Prove me wrong. Prove everyone wrong right now. You understand? That's the best thing that you could do.
And I do think it is. You're saying, well, hopefully we're going to see that. I'm not sure yet that we will. It's been about a solid month that Kamala Harris has been the presumptive nominee. We got the convention coming up, this coming week, next week. I think it is vital for the health of this country that the same treatment that the media gave Joe Biden in that last few weeks after his debate, they didn't do that for 3 years.
Yeah.
For 3 years, we missed that. The fact that it took that early debate and Donald Trump demolishing him in that debate for the country to suddenly wake up and say that Joe Biden is not a functioning U.S. president is actually a damning indictment of the entire media and its relationship to the political class.
Facts.
So we can't make that same mistake with Kamala Harris. I think the media needs to demand that she at least face the same kind of questioning that, frankly, J.D. Vance and Donald Trump are getting right now. And then the public it's up to them to decide. That's a functioning democracy.
Because you're not implying by her not doing the interviews and based off of the way that Biden was treated in those last couple of weeks, you're not implying that you don't think she's competent to.
Where'd she come from out of left field with this information right here? You see what I'm saying? Here she goes. She about to pander. I already know she's going to be pandering. Watch.
Are getting right now. And then the public it's up to them to decide. That's a functioning democracy.
Because you're not implying by her not doing the interviews and based off of the way that Biden was treated in those last couple of weeks, you're not implying that you don't think she's competent to.
No, we're not implying. I guess that's what we're saying. I mean, you don't have to imply. Just be logic. You understand what I mean? Get off your emotions, sweetheart. You understand? Ask the correct questions.
Be the president of the United States, right?
I'm saying the media is covering for her right now the same way they covered for Biden for 3 years.
You think they're covering, or you think that she's just using her
They're not playing
strategy?
hard. They're not paying this. She's using a strategy. Okay, I think she's using some smart.
Which politicians do.
That's fine, but I think it's the media's job now to cut through that strategy and say this person very well could be the president of the United States. Has at least a 50% chance right now, according to most forecasts, of being the next president. She deserves to be questioned, not with kid gloves, but questioned with the gloves off on what exactly her policy vision is for the country. Until that happens, I think the voters are hiding in the dark.
Yep.
And that's what allows the machine to work, because we know she's questioned a lot on that behind closed doors. Who's funding the campaigns of both parties? You know, behind closed doors, a lot of donors ask a lot of questions. That's how you raise hundreds of millions of dollars in just 1 month. The voting public deserves that same level of transparency. And one of the things I will, say what you will about, you could criticize either side. I like that Donald Trump showed up at the Libertarian Party convention, right? That's a third party at a convention. I actually spoke there. He spoke there as well the next night. I like that he spoke to the National Association of Black Journalists in Chicago. I'd love for Kamala Harris to show up at the National Association of Black Journalists.
Well, she wanted to, but they wouldn't let her do the virtual thing. She does have a day job.
But the day
She's still
job,
vice president.
No, but the day job is running. Come on. At this point, she is going full time, reading off a teleprompter at the rallies, the same thing 4 times a day.
You hear that? She wanted to do it virtual. I wonder why she wanted it to be virtual. I really wonder why. This way we can't see the magic show happening. You understand? The magic show will be revealed. That's my opinion right there.
She should show up for that interview. If Donald Trump sits down with the National Association of Black Journalists, I'm sorry, a scheduling excuse is not a valid reason for the
don't we know
competitor to also show up.
But if Kamala, not to cut you off, I'm sorry. If Kamala sits down with NABJ, we know where she's going conversation-wise.
Hey.
Right? I think it's honestly,
not necessarily true. I don't think that's true. I think the person who did that interview for Donald Trump, if they had taken the same approach with respect to Kamala Harris, I think that'd actually be pretty good conversation for the country.
I don't know if she would. I want to see her on. I want to see the vice president on Fox News.
I think she should go across the room.
Even better. Even better, right? So one of the things I liked, Donald Trump went to the Bronx. People could say it wasn't the real Bronx or whatever, but he showed up in the Bronx. He showed up in South Bronx. Showed up in inner cities in the country. Even in my own campaign, I went to the south side of Chicago. Went to a room full of 95% black, 95% Democrat. It's not a traditional Republican primary location. Mm-hmm. I went to Kensington in the inner city of Philadelphia. Speaking as a former candidate myself, I could tell you those trips had an impact on me, right? It had an impact on my view of a national unity that I believe is possible in this country that I wouldn't have had if I hadn't showed up there. I'd love to see Kamala Harris go into rural Mississippi, go into Alabama, showing up at a Fox News moderated town hall.
Well, she does do that now. We can't act like she doesn't do that. Even the past week, she hit all of the battleground states, and she's actually hitting the street, which I think in a lot of ways is more effective right now than sitting
with
down and doing
hostile
an
questioning,
interview.
though, is not. I want to see her answer questions.
You see, you just got to pay attention to Charlemagne is just going to be pro-Democrat no matter who's in that seat. That is who he's going to be pro for. You understand what I mean? Everything, he's just justifying it, this way because, it's okay that she's doing it and this is the reason why. You understand what I mean? Look, you can miss me with that. I'm on point. I think with logic, not emotional. I'm rational. You understand what I'm saying? And hopefully you are too. And I do my own due diligence. You understand what I'm saying? So you got to research. You can't let them pull one over your head. Go in the comments. Let me know what you think about this interview right here. Listen, Vivek is holding his own right now. It seems like they was just trying to set up the play so they could get you to a high moment with him. But he just kept, hitting them with the uppercut, hitting them with the left and the right combo. You know what I'm saying? He put him to sleep, baby. Hey, look, listen. If you like reactions like this, consider hitting that like button. Definitely subscribe to my channel and also hit the notification bell. I'll see you on the next one.